Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farba. Polish President Karol Nawrocki is due to visit the United Kingdom starting later on Monday evening. He's going to be meeting Prime Minister Keir Starmer and members of the Polish community in London. Now, the trip combines practical discussions on security and defense with symbolic gestures that highlight the long history between the two countries. Joining us now to discuss more about the visit is Aleks Szczerbiak, Professor of Politics and head of the department at the University of Sussex. Good to have you back on TVP World.
Good morning. It's very good to be back.
So, I mean, you do have some UK experience, so I want to just start right on that. What are the, let's say, realistic expectations, or let's say, what is the impact that the President can have on this visit coming up today on Monday?
Well, it's an important visit. It's Karol Nawrocki's first major engagement with the UK since he was elected president and sworn in August. And I think that it's a very good opportunity for the Polish president and the government to show a united front. Mr. Nawrocki and Mr. Tusk had a meeting a few days ago where, in spite of the fact that they're bitter political enemies, there was clearly some attempt to try and take some of that bitterness out of the foreign policy sphere, particularly in relation to security issues. And the UK visit is a really good opportunity to try and demonstrate that, because relations between Poland and the UK are very strong, and they're built on defence and military cooperation, partly due to a very similar analysis that the two countries have of the nature of the Russian threat, how the Ukrainian war is progressing, and the kind of security guarantees that Ukraine should get. But also there's a very practical dimension to this in terms of the huge arms contracts that Poland has negotiated with the UK, the billion-pound Narew anti-missile program, the Miecznik frigate program, and hopefully which is going to culminate in a joint security cooperation agreement. So this is one of those areas where, in spite of the fact that Poland's very divided, you've got a prime minister and a president who are bitter political enemies, both domestically and in the foreign policy sphere, but where there has been a high degree of continuity between the policy of the previous government and the policy of the current government. And it's a very good opportunity to Poland to present a united front in terms of these critical security issues.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is key as well. I mean, you just mentioned it there, that defense, security, those are two elements where Poland and the UK very much agree on. And as you said, even despite domestic politics, something that both the President and the Prime Minister also seem to be moving towards closer to. Given the events of the last week and days, what we're hearing from Greenland with Trump's threats to take it, etc., is that relationship now moving closer? Can the presence of President Nawrocki in the UK, let's say, enhance that even further? Is this more critical now than it was, say, I mean, it was already critical, but is it more significant now since these last days?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think that Mr. Nawrocki sees the great strength that he has in terms of contributing to Polish defence and security policy is his relationship with the Trump administration, which, they're very close ideological allies. He's already had a very successful visit to Washington, and that's in contrast to the Tusk government, which has very poor relations with the Trump administration. And I think the role of Britain here is pivotal because this is seen as a key transatlantic bridge, if you like, and therefore strengthening that relationship with Britain, with the Starmer government, which, let's not forget, although the Starmer government is also very ideologically hostile to the Trump administration, it has managed to maintain good relations, cordial relations with the United States. It was, for example, extremely cautious in terms of what it said about the US intervention in Venezuela, in spite of the fact that, a lot of Mr. Starmer's political supporters would have liked him to have been much, much more critical. So I think this is of a piece with Mr. Nawrocki's project, which is to try and see himself as the man who can build transatlantic relations and Britain, I think, is a key player in that because of the relationship that, in spite of their ideological differences, the Starmer administration and the Trump administration have managed to maintain.
Mm-hmm. There's also, I want to just draw for the viewers some interesting points. And there's a presence of UK forces, not just in Poland, but across NATO's eastern flank. I mean, there's that battle group also in the Baltics. As you mentioned earlier, there are those defense plans with developing new naval tech, also the nod of the air systems. Do you see that maybe because of this visit, or maybe despite of the visit, any kind of acceleration? Do you see more UK troops potentially in Poland? I mean, that's going to be a logistics hub in case there's a ceasefire in Ukraine. So I'm just wondering how this visit impacts any of those strategic decisions.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I don't think we're going to see any kind of specific commitments in terms of further troop deployments or new contracts announced. I mean, it's interesting when Mr. Nawrocki visited the United States for his discussions with Mr. Trump, the government actually wanted him to avoid talking about defense contracts. And while it's very tempting for a politician to go somewhere and announce, very specific policy outcomes, as indeed Mr. Nawrocki was able to when he went to visit Mr. Trump, I don't think that's what we're likely to see from this visit. I think it's more going to be about the political mood. It's going to be about the fact that, emphasising that Polish-UK relations are strong, that defence and security cooperation are critical to that this is something that is common to the government and the Polish president, in spite of their differences. It's something that they're keen to maintain. And I think the key output that the Polish government really wants to see is the conclusion of this strategic bilateral agreement, very similar to the one that the UK has with France. Because beyond all the kind of specific areas of short-term cooperation that you have, and that indeed you've listed, the Polish government and indeed the Polish president want something much deeper and much longer term. So I think that's the kind of the medium-term output that Poland is looking for. Plus, of course, the general kind of mood music of improving relations between Poland and the UK. I'm not sure we can expect any specific outputs. It's more the general contribution this is making to the Polish-UK bilateral relationship.
Mm-hmm. Professor, you spoke about improving relationships, but at the same time, you also already hinted that those relationships are already quite onto a good level between the Tusk government and the Starmer government. So are these relationships in need of more improvement, in your opinion?
I think that the cooperation is good, and I think that it's important to bear in mind that when you had a change of government in both Poland and the UK, which you had within 9 months of each other, I mean, there was a lot of speculation that actually, the very close bilateral relations that developed under the previous Conservative government in the UK and the Law and Justice government, for which there were all kinds of particular reasons that they had, might not continue. There was a concern that, for example, Poland might orientate much more towards relations with the EU political establishment, particularly with Berlin, rather than looking at these kind of bilateral ties. And similarly, when the Starmer government was elected, I mean, there was a concern that they would be less bothered about prioritising bilateral relations in the way that the Conservative government did in the wake of Brexit, when obviously it could no longer do so through the EU. But that's not happened. I think those relations have continued. There's been a very high level of continuity. And I think the key to this is defence and security cooperation. I mean, simply that in this critical area, Britain and Poland's interests are aligned, and there are some really specific interests here in terms of hard cash and hard military equipment, which mean that those relations were going to stay close and are going to stay close. So I don't think there are any particular concerns. It's really about sort of keeping things on track. It's about deepening that relationship and about making sure that it can be formalised through the treaty, which I think both governments are hoping can be negotiated and agreed very, very soon.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to delve a little bit into history as well, just because I think it's significant here. One of the places that President Nawrocki will visit is that Polish Air Force Memorial near London. Tell us a bit about, it's not just, I think, a simple photo op, is it? I mean, this is a place of a squadron, many squadrons, but the 303rd in particular was ferocious on the Battle of Britain, highest kill ratio in terms of the Battle of Britain on the side of the Allies. Tell us a bit more about why that kind of visit and the optics, what that sends, that kind of message.
Yeah, so three specific things about this. I mean, first of all, although the defence and security cooperation is obviously the key to the Polish-UK relationship, the Polish community in the UK is still huge and very significant. I mean, there's something like 750,000 Poles, which is not as many as there was at one time, and it's not as politically significant as it was, say, during the Brexit negotiations, but it's still very important. A really important element of Britain's relationship with Poland during the whole post-war period, including during the communist period when I grew up in the UK, was the Polish contribution to the British war effort. As you said, the Polish squadrons involved in the Battle of Britain were absolutely critical. 1 in 10 of the German planes that were shot down in the Battle of Britain were shot down by Polish pilots. This was something that was drummed into me when I was young, growing up in the UK, and I made every single British person that I spoke to about the war knew about this. And I think the third thing here is the fact that Karol Nawrocki is a historian. Okay, historical policy is really important to him. It's part of his DNA, and the Polish contribution to the war effort, and indeed recognition of Polish suffering during the Second World War, is really critical to him. It's why, for example, he's made such a great play of raising the war reparations issue with Germany, and it's one of the reasons why the visit to RAF Northolt is going to be so critical to his visit here. It's partly because he wants to, it's about linking up with the Polish community, which is still very, very important in Polish-UK relations, but it also has a critical role to play in Poland's historical mission, if you like, the historical policy, which Mr. Nawrocki sees as one of the defining features of his presidency.
All right, so it's not just about the future, it's also about history, but ties that bind. We'll close it there. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure there. That's Professor Aleks Szczerbiak. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.